Let's go to Rams running back Blake Corum when he was asked about his college quarterback J.J. McCarthy and his future after Kyler Murray was signed by the Vikings.
JJ's a field general, and I think, he's going to take the challenge that they've given him. Obviously, bringing in Kyler Murray, there's going to be a competition. And so, that's going to, light a fire under him. But he's just a overall good human being. He's a competitor, and I know he's not someone that's going to let naysayers or outsiders, determine, the type of player he's going to be. He still has the pencil in his own hand. He's still writing his story. And so I think, this is going to be a great year for JJ. And I'm super excited to see him, really prove everyone wrong.
Okay, so how does he do it, Dano?
Yeah, I think number one thing is just really settling into being that professional quarterback. A lot of us loved the 9 alter ego thing. You can still be ultra competitive, but I think we have to move on from that. The other thing is the consistency. Because of the injuries, the mechanics have fallen apart for him, and that's been the downfall. I still believe that he's a talented player. Just because they signed Kyler doesn't mean that Kyler has to be the starting quarterback. You can still go be the guy like Blake Corum's talking about. The consistency is needed.
All right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know Orlovsky brought up like the whole 9 alter ego, all that type of stuff. Like I never buy into that type of stuff. That's all good and well and whatever. And sometimes when you're competing and you kind of get yourself in that state of mind and all that. But like that's just like that stuff's extra. It is a consistency. It's being healthy and being on the field, fixing your mechanics. It's just the elementary stuff in that regard. I think JJ showed a lot of fascinating stuff last season. He showed a lot of ugly stuff. We've talked about it. He had moments when I was really impressed. I really truly was. And he made some beautiful throws, beautiful decisions, beautiful reads, beautiful execution, like high-level stuff. And then there were times when it was just like this might be one of like the ugliest things I've ever seen, and you're just like and I think it's always a little confusing with that. I'm still trying to figure out my own kind of like rules with some of that. I don't like to set rules. Like I always think about like Colin always has these set rules that he creates like by year 2 by Thanksgiving and like all this type of stuff, and I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I do still try to figure out like what type of frame do I put around something. And when it comes to a situation like this, I still very much struggle with how do I draw conclusions when I see a quarterback do awesome things and downright terrible things. I struggle with it. And it's just like a lot of times when you see a quarterback do amazing things, even though he's doing plenty of terrible things, you're just like, yeah, but look at this potential. Look at this potential. And that's how you get trapped. That's how you get trapped with AR, Justin Fields, etc. And you're just like, people were really like, let's keep Justin Fields and not get Caleb Williams. And it's like, that's insane. Like that's an insane conclusion to draw or and so with J.J. McCarthy, I almost said Mike McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy here, it's like he showed some moments that were really impressive. And it's like I'm not even saying that he needs to be able to continue to do that game after game after game, but I would like to see his average be more consistent. It was too up and down. And I've talked about this with a few other quarterbacks and other teams about just like elevating your floor and not so much the ceiling necessarily, but his average. Like it's hard cause when you look at such extremes, when you take really highs and really lows and then you take the average out, when you're in that situation, you're not really getting an honest representation of what you're doing, right? It's like if you score 100 points in one game and 0 points in another game, like sure, you're going to get an average that makes it look like that it's like 50, but it's like not quite. That's not the actual reality of the story here. And with JJ, even if we look at his average, because that's what this is, right? His averages is 57.6 completion percentage, 11 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, right? Like that's his average technically. And it's like, not really. Like, yes, technically, right? Like by the letter of the law and the mathematics. Yes, that is his average, but not quite. And so, of course, I want to see him elevate his floor and, I guess to a degree his ceiling as well, but his average just needs to feel more competent, more organized. And that is actually where I'll jump in with the whole 9 alter ego. And to be clear, I'm not saying that that's a problem. I'm just using that as more of like a metaphor more than anything. Yeah, I don't care about any of that. Like none of that matters. None of that matter. M. Jones is at 9. Had a lot of success. Daniel Jones is a 9. Had a lot of success. Sam Darnold's not 9. Had a lot of success obviously with the Vikings and then of course the Seahawks. And oh man, who's the backup quarterback for the Houston Texans? I cannot think of his name right now. But totally lukewarm man, totally lukewarm, doesn't have the ceiling of a CJ Stroud and yet really competent, won a lot of games. And so because when your average is just good enough, if you again, and I am trying to separate this from my floor conversation and the average, because you got the floor, you got the average, and you got your peak, your ceiling, and to me it's just like for him his average was it's like what is it? What was it? And that becomes problematic. And again, they're kind of different conversations because I've said this before, when you have a quarterback as inconsistent as we've seen. You don't know what to expect as a play caller. You don't know what to call as an offense. You just don't know what to do because you don't know if you're getting the through the roof version or the floor version. And again, that's a separate conversation of just like, well, what's the average like? Not how that average is out, but what's the average like? And just the average was just kind of like, your average isn't even playing like that of a backup quarterback right now. And so it's just things just there was never a chance to get any continuity, to get any type of consistency. And so even what when they were talking about like, oh, it's going to light a fire under him and that competitive drive, it's not even about that either. It's really not. If you, sure. You're going to need that to like put in the work, but like if you're not putting in the work now, then like I don't know, like your weather Kyle. Are Murray's there or not, like you need to be putting in the work and going all in. So, it's just like it's not about that to me. It's just about doing all the little things, focusing on the details, taking care of your mechanics. I think the broadcast did a pretty good job over the final weeks of the season to really kind of highlight some of the things that JJ McCarthy needs to work on in terms of his footwork, his arm angles, all that type of stuff. And I remember that because I explained to everyone it's what Daniel Jones had to do, which obviously is not the greatest comp in terms of like what people are excited about, but it's still something Josh Allen, which is obviously the best comp to show like, how much he's changed his throwing mechanics and whatnot. Sam Darnold. I showed videos in the past with Palmer explaining how he changed his approach and his mechanics. And so all of this stuff can be a process, but he's got to be healthy. He's got to be on the field. And it is not something that you typically get the opportunity to work on during the regular season, especially when you're still just trying to figure out how the heck you even play in the NFL. I'm sure there could be a big difference if you're in year 7, year 8, and some of your mechanics is kind of just getting a little, off, and you can work on that type of stuff, of course. But when you're JJ McCarthy, you're just trying to figure out how the heck do I survive trying to now also work on like your mechanics and whatnot. It's like that's a tough one. And then especially in practices and stuff, you're going to be doing drills and you're going to be doing essentially the same drill 1,000 times, and that's just not what you're going to be doing in practice during the regular season. You're just not going to be able to do that. So that's why to me it was always about off-season, and it's why I kept saying, and unfortunately I bring this up all the time because it's just important to keep everyone keeping their awareness that that's what he was not able to do when he tore his meniscus. So even though he sat for a year, even though he was in some meetings and whatnot, he wasn't able to do the stuff that needed to be done. Not only was he was unable to be properly evaluated, but then he also wasn't able to actually practice in the way that he needed to practice. Whether he had meetings with Kevin O'Neill or Andy Reid or the big super duper quarterback guru in the universe, like it just unless you can actually get out there and do it, it can only do so much for you. And so this was the season that for the first time that J.J. McCarthy was truly able to get properly evaluated, and then it is up to I honestly Kevin O'Connell as well to see like there is the potential here. Yes, there was problems here. There was issues here, but I see if we change them and correct them we can get back on track. I see the vision. I see the vision, and therefore I'm going to put in the work with you to get you there, right? We're going to figure this out. We're going to problem solve. But when you do get a Kyler Murray, it is absolutely a lot easier for Kevin O'Connell to be like, this is all the stuff you need to work on, but like you got to do it, man. You got to make the throw, and then and then you move on. Like it's becomes a different coach-quarterback dynamic. It really does, right? Like the dynamic that say a Ben Johnson is going to have with a Caleb Williams right now is infinitely different than what Kevin O'Connell is having with J.J. McCarthy. So I'm curious what other coaches J.J. McCarthy is going to be working with, working with a Palmer. I'm not fully sure, like when it's totally okay to be working with the Palmers of the NFL and private, quarterback specialists and stuff like that, and when it's like you're sticking with your head coach Kevin O'Connell. I'm not 100% sure, how that officially operates, like when you're allowed, because sometimes you hear quarterbacks like seeking outside support, and it's like the biggest, oh my gosh, like that's when Jones did with the Patriots, and people were like, this is ridiculous. How dare you do that? And you hear plenty of other quarterbacks working with other coaches outside, but like maybe like once you reach a certain level like a Palmer, like it's totally okay. Like you're allowed to work on your mechanics with someone like a Palmer, and that's like acceptable in the NFL. Like I don't honestly, I really don't have a strong frame of reference outside of just the random examples that I observe and see when it's okay and when it's not okay. But yeah, I think there's obviously plenty to work on for J.J. McCarthy. I'm not going to get lost in the whole idea of like, well, now that Kyler Murray's there, it's going to be competitive and that's what he needs. It's like, no, that's already there. You're not going to need that. You either want to be in the NFL or not. You either want to be great or you don't. He knows that the clock is ticking on him. He's not dumb. JJ is incredibly bright. He wants to put in the work. He wants to get after it, but he has to focus on the right things. It's not just effort. It's not just an identity. It's putting in the work, getting after it in the drills, watching film, working with coaches, and, just putting in the time. So, we'll see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about J.J. McCarthy, the Minnesota Vikings? Seriously, he has a lot of work that he needs to do, but he is in a spot with a team right now that it's a lot easier for them to be like, you have to figure this out. I have to focus on other stuff, right? Like, we want you to work, but this isn't the J.J. McCarthy Vikings. This is the Minnesota Vikings. So, it's just like it's a trickier spot right now. It's a trickier spot than again what Caleb or Bo or they have. And so I'm curious how that all lands for you. How you think this unfolds, how you think the Vikings will handle it. Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get to some discussions. Let's get to some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.